Hi, I'm back, and basically I'm doing a book called Taming the Tongue, and I'm just going to make it 2 parts of the chapter. There's a couple things to say, so I'm not going to make it a really long video. Let's continue on. So, growing in truthfulness. So much for avoiding lies. How do we grow in honesty and the virtue of truthfulness? One simple practice of growing in truthfulness is to correct ourselves as soon as possible, whenever we lie. So if you fall into a lie, it might happen from time to time, but as soon as that happens, you got to make sure you check yourself before you keep lying. If you find yourself in a lie, take it out immediately. Or if you catch yourself telling someone else's story as if it were your own, stop telling a lie. Because we all tell stories, but you got to tell your own story, not just tell somebody else's story. It's their story, not yours. If you lie for fear, as soon as your heart settles, make sure that you settle your heart if it's fear or whatever it can be. So another practice is to get into the habit of telling people the hard truth. So the first habit is, if you feel that you're lying, make sure that you catch yourself and stop yourself from doing it. And another practice is get into the habit of telling people the hard truth. So you don't want to be rude, but people will respect you for it. You don't want to be rude when you tell the hard truth, but remember, you'll get respect from telling the hard truth to people. As folks learn, they can accept the truth from you. They will seek your opinion. For example, like, how does somebody look in something? But he really wants to know. She comes, or somebody asks, how does she look in a dress? That doesn't mean that you should not tell the truth. And that's a hard truth. Maybe you might say you don't like it, but I don't know, something like that. So when folks ask for an opinion, what they really want is love. So remember, when people ask for opinion, what they really want is love. Without love, your ability to tell it like it is won't count for much. So remember, if you want to tell people how it is, you better come with love and not without it. Because if you're going to tell somebody how it is, remember, come with love, because then it counts, because then you get respect. But if you want to tell somebody how it is without love, you're not going to get respect. So that kind might be uncomfortable for you or the other person. But most of the time, or a lot of times, may not intentionally want the truth from you. They might just prefer a comfortable lie instead. But in the end, they will love you for it. At least the Lord will. So to be consistently truthful requires bravery. When group dynamics seem to require us to go along with the crowd, we have to find ways to remain steadfast in our community to the truth. As times when scandals arise from our silence, when we can choose from speaking. We are not responsible for every truth or every lie. When our words are many, transgression is not lacking, but he who resists his lips as prudent, something Proverbs 10:9. So there is always a way to continue or cling to the truth, even when it's not a spoken way. So at the root, people recognize that while the truth may be hard to accept, we simply can't on without it. We simply can't keep going on without it. Truth tellers will always be essential to our lives. Becoming just such a person requires continuing conversation. It requires work. Above else, we should ask for it in our prayer. So, by clarifying our motivations and discovering what we really seek in our relationships and intentions, we will be better equipped to cling to the truth. Where is it? Blah, 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 blah. No, where was I? Where was I? No. Where is it? I lost it. Where was that? Okay. No. Alright, it requires work. Alright. We can't even add it to our daily examines, so by clarifying our motives. Alright, so other uses of speech. With all this said, we are not necessarily limited to use words in just one way. It can be used in a variety of ways, not all of which employ truth in the same fashion. So we can use, people say, a figure of speech. In effect, there are different categories of something. So for instance, we share stories, play roles, tell jokes, use hyperbole things or context clues in introductory words, communicate to others what genre we're using. So when we begin a story with once upon a time or all those other things, we make it known that we are not telling the facts. We are doing something else. So when you ask me how am I doing, you're not generally asking for a calm account of my physical, emotional well-being. You're expressing a social purpose just to show that regard for a person. So when you reply, fine, thanks, I respond with a general category to acknowledge your concern. So now it might be that I really miss something, but it wouldn't be but it would be inappropriate to burden you with that information. So somebody might say, how are you doing? I'm doing fine. But maybe you really miss somebody, but you don't need to burden somebody with that information, especially upon your first or second meeting. If we are friends, then it'll be more easy into sharing those things. But it's something you have to navigate together. So pleasantries leave us free to progress depending on how the initial question is asked and answered. So truth sets a high standard, but it doesn't cause our speech to change. So the mental or physical power of speech has plenty of different uses, regarding from the serious to silly. Less than serious speech can be perfectly appropriate. We just have to incorporate it organically into our conversation. If we use less than serious speech or carelessly, it can begin to undermine communication. So it's the truth that gives efficiency to our words. And we must be sure to safeguard our place in our speech. Other sins against truthfulness. So we don't just lie with our words, we can also lie with our actions. Recognizing this, so a few sins to avoid. So here's a few sins to avoid. Leading others. So a sin of leading others to believe that you are other than you are. So say, for instance, you live in a Muslim country and Christianity is legal within its borders. You are born into a Muslim family, but after a journey of a speech, prayer, and study, you ask to be baptized. As present, no longer you believe what you did as a child. You intended to abandon that perfect Islam. But let's say you want to, let's say further that you don't want to upset your family, and so you continue to observe Muslim at the time being. So let's say you were, okay, so there's just an example, skip that. So hypocrisy is a particular form of basically a simulation, the sin of impersonation, as one who pretends to be someone other than he is. So for example, when a sinner simulates, or when a sinner just acts like a just person. Certainly there are various ways in which people claim to be someone they're not. So you shouldn't hand over a fake ID to purchase a beer or stuff like that. Let's see. So just be genuine and don't pretend that you're somebody you're not. So who you are who you are and not otherwise. To these sins of deed. So another word, sin, namely boasting. So boasting is opposed to the truth by way of access. In boasting, we describe ourselves in our ability beyond what we know to be the case. It is to talk of oneself above oneself. The boaster gives himself credit he doesn't deserve. So don't give yourself credit you don't deserve. Whether for pride, he is in the habit of going beyond what is true and cares more for the appearance of excellence than for the excellence itself. With the sins of lying, simulation, or boasting, whichever one it is, we see the power of appearing better than we are. We've been there. So what is the sense of appearance when we lack the substance? So we stand a better chance of actually becoming worthy people rather than seemingly to be such. So we can take refuge in the truth. All right, last point here. It's cold out here. So, irony and truth indifference. So, as proud persons, we are usually tempted to over-narrate our excellence, lying claim to be more than we should out of the desire for gain or respect. However, we sometimes fall prey to the opposite vice. We under-narrate our excellence, our rightful claims. So sometimes this vice of underselling oneself as irony, sometimes translated as false modesty or quality, if expressing represents or if boasting represents an excess, then irony represents a fault. There is type of behavior doesn't seem to deserve the title. So I think that's the right vice. However, offends against the truth and falls short of the perfection to which we are called for. So, while it can be appropriate to employ some self-deception, it's not appropriate to belittle oneself beyond a certain point. For one, it describes the mind. For another, it distances us from reality. When we refer to irony, basically just a word for effect, nowadays we have in mind and strong in which the speaker states the accurate opposite of what he intends to show his this distance and displeasure. So, for example, sure, I'd love to. I was hoping you'd ask, and then not. While this is not what he had in mind, this kind of speech can also offend against truthfulness. Light touches off something. Sorry, I don't know what it is. Let's see. Light touches off, basically showing that one dislikes or can be fine in certain circumstances, but it becomes difficult when it is great. The near exclusiveness use of irony can be confusing, even to confuse for our a conversation partner, enter something. With people who speak ironically, often I find myself wondering, what do they actually think? What do they actually love? We should take care. Least careless. We should take care something. Least, basically, for fear that irony becomes a smoking screen, a verbal trick to avoid any genuine commitments. Certainly, there's room. Certainly, there's room for silliness, but when we live always at a distance, we prevent the possibility of real sharing. Communion will always require us to be vulnerable, which entails a certain quality of speech. The preference of irony reflects a related vice that we see in our culture, that the truth indifference. So we said that irony can distance us verbally from real commitments. Truth indifference goes a step further in its alienation. Truth indifference is effectively a particular attitude about the very possibility of truth knowing and truth telling. When confronted by the real difficulty of identifying truth, it in the complexity or complicated world around us, truth indifferent effectively refuses to begin on the challenge or take on the challenge. Let's see. So I'm just talking about how social media posts truths, all that stuff. That there's no room for real truth. So the truth is pretty much non-existent in media. There's no truth anymore. There's no facts nowadays. The only thing that matters nowadays on media is control and results. So everyone is advocating, everyone is doing. It's not that they traffic in falsity. It's that they're not even trying to know. So all this false media, all these people, they're not even trying to know the truth. In this environment nowadays, the ordinary person and the teller is tempted to despair. So admittedly, this isn't an entirely new thing. There always been people like that, and people have always been tempted to prefer social conformity over truth. But never before have we had a public with such access to such vast information. So nowadays, there's so much information, and it can be so fast, but it's never truth. So it may just be a product of information overload. We can't possibly understand or care about it, all things in which we are exposed to. And so we assist our experience of information such that it aligns with our thoughts and feelings, rather than read an article or evaluate its claims on the bias of independent sources. We skip to the comment box to identify voices that echo our own and through in our lots with our tribe, that are in lots with our tribe. So we skip to the comment section to see who agrees with us and not actually evaluate what's really happening. So I'm just talking about the vaccine, how some people will never get it, or some people were never affected by it. So we don't care, provided that we can tell a story in which we are right all along. As long as we can assure ourselves of our social presence or social whatever, we remain upset with what's going on. So what appears to be overconfidence in one's opinion is in fact a disguise, or disgusted? No, disguise, yeah. It's in fact a disguise of despair at the possibility of coming to the truth through diligent efforts. Alright, almost done. So where do we begin in this situation? Well, a very good first step is to stop pretending to know things that we don't know. So if you don't know, don't pretend like you know. There are few words so liberating as I don't know. We should get used to saying that more often. So if you don't know, just say you don't know. Once we've let go of our pretensions to expertise and called our own bluff, as it were, we can get down to the business of finding truth. So the human mind is made for more than just admitting its ignorance. It's made to know, to care, and concerned for facts, and to be diligent in pursuing them. That means actually trying to get right and tell facts. It means putting in the work. We have to develop habits for inquiring into things themselves and making judgments as to what is and what is not. So we can also invest so much in the effort. We often do best when we limit ourselves to what state or what relates to our state of life, or pretense to our state of life. So know it all will cause us to completely worry about many things beyond us. So true or genuine something, so I don't know what that word is. Solicit, I don't know. What is that word saying? No. Oh, what is it? Solicitude for our active lives, for thus in our care will entail an embrace of our constraints. So when we remain within the boundaries of our business, given our time and place, we are able to devote the energy needed to correctly discern truth amidst the confusion in which it's concealed. For those willing to disciple themselves in service of truth, it's an act that proves most empowering. In possessing the truth, one comes in turn to possess himself and is thereby able to give himself to the truth or genuine conversation. For those who flee the truth, a life of isolation awaits. The only way in which to build a communion life is to base it on reality. The only way to gain access to reality through the truth, and so will the truth place demands on our humanity. They are demands worth assuming. They will mature us into truth knowers and truth tellers, capable of deep and satisfying communion. So seek them out, a deep attachment to the truth. Seek to befriend it. It may require great sacrifice, but it will conduct you surely and sweetly into the fullness of life. And that's it for that chapter. So basically, I think I am going to make them 2 parts. Usually I read ahead of time so I don't make it this long. So I'll probably start doing that, but we'll see. So I'll probably just make them 2 parts every time. So God is good all the time, and I'm out.